who may not know, we have a new face in the crowd this evening. Patrick, welcome to the Plan Commission. Patrick,
Thanks, Nancy.
Everybody. A real quick round of introductions, if we could. Why don't we start, Chris, since you're up in my upper right corner here.
Patrick, Chris Homburg, nice to meet you. I'm the dinosaur on the commission.
Hi, Chris. Pleasure.
Christy, go ahead.
Hi, Christy Goforth, alder and volunteer extraordinaire. How about that? Nice to have you.
Corinne.
Hi, Corinne Fallett. Been on the commission a couple of years.
Great. Rob.
Hello, welcome. Rob Stein. Been on Plan Commission for over 6 years, I think now. So good to have you.
Thanks.
Great. And Brian.
Hey, Patrick, welcome to Plan Commission. Glad that you're joining us here, and I think you'll be able to help round out some of the different skill sets around the table and as we make some decisions through this commission. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. And finally, Susan.
Hi, Patrick. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Susan. Nice to meet you too.
And happy to have you on the Plan Commission with us.
Great. With that, I would like to call the meeting officially to order. This is the City of Monona Plan Commission, Monday, May 10th, 2021. Could you call the roll?
Chair Moore,
Here.
Alder Goforth. Alder Goforth. Oh. Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mr. Stein.
Here.
Mr. Holmquist.
Here.
Ms. Follett.
Here.
And Mr. Homburg.
Here.
Right.
Thank you.
And Mr. DePula. Sorry about that. It's
It's
like, wait, we're
Here.
missing someone.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 12th?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Are there any corrections, changes, additions? Okay, Corinne?
I just on page 4 under D, consideration of action on request by ENR Investment. In the second paragraph, it says that I clarified that the store would not sell CBD products, but I was just clarifying that it wasn't the primary item that they would be selling, not that they couldn't sell CBD. So I'd like to just clarify that. And then there was another item. On page 6, the second paragraph, the sentence that starts, Mr. Stein asked if they would expand the building in the future as the student body grows. And Mr. Kerr said that they would not expand the building, but would more likely add a new location. I thought that they had said they would stay and keep the capacity at what they were proposing at the last meeting. But am I remembering that incorrectly?
I think. Go ahead, Rob.
I remember something similar. I remember asking that question, and that their answer was that their full build out at 880 students or whatever it was the intention, was the goal of the school. Expansion to new locations, I don't recall being discussed, but it was a few weeks ago. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I thought the goal was they would have this wonderful new site and that they wouldn't need to move in the future. And so the capacity would just be maintained at whatever would fit there.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that might be true. I can go back to the recording and clarify.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Chris?
I think the expansion was referring to the building footprint, not a different building. And at one point they did talk about if they can't have the gym on the parking garage, which is highly unlikely, it's possible they might expand on the one side of the building to add a gymnasium. I think that's really what all that's referring to, is expansion of the building, its footprint.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Great. So any other corrections? Chris, did you have anything? Yeah.
I do. On page 2, the first paragraph, the last sentence, Ms. Mizey said that the downspouts would be run under the parking lot into the wetland area. I'd like to change the wording on that a bit, that they would be run under the parking lot into the conveyance ditches. And I don't recall exactly what she said, but I wouldn't want our minutes to infer that we told them it was okay to go into the wetlands. And what happens on that site is there are conveyance ditches around the perimeter, and the detention basin is immediately next to the site. So where they were talking about will likely go right into that detention basin, and then it's let out through a weir into the wetlands. Somebody could read this later and think that we kind of said it'd be okay to go into the wetlands directly, which we never did.
Right. Great. Thank you for the clarification. Anything else? Any other corrections, additions, changes to the minutes? Florin, are you okay if at least goes back and makes that clarification based on what we talked about tonight?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Terrific. That being the case, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes carried. Thank you. Do we have any appearances this evening? Brian, are you aware of any, or Alyssa, are you aware of any?
No, I'm not aware of any.
No appearances. Okay. Thank you. Then we'll move to number 5, unfinished business, of which there are none. Moving to number 6, a new business. First up, 6A, public hearing on the request by the East Side Club, CEO Robin Klingy, to revise the hours of operation of the outdoor Tiki bar at 3735 Monona Drive as allowed by the zoning permit approved on 3/28/2011, case number 2-011-2021. Assuming that someone is here representing the East Side Club. Yes, Chris.
I'm a member of the East Side Club, so I will be abstaining on this. I've been around for all the modifications, so I'm available for questions if there's any about why things were done in the past.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Who is here to speak on behalf of the East Side Club? No one. That being the case, we'll close the public hearing portion, and we'll move to 6B, consideration of action on the request by the East Side Club to revise the hours of operation, the outdoor Tiki bar at 3735 Monona Drive as allowed by the zoning permit approved 3/28/2011, case number 2-011-2021. Brian, do you have something for us this evening?
Yes. So in your staff packet materials, we kind of laid out for you what the items for discussion are tonight and the staff recommendation. Basically, the change, if I could summarize it in a clear way, is basically changing the hours of operations for Saturday and Sunday, the weekends, and then on the occasion when a holiday would fall on a special day, allowing the East Side Club to open up 1 hour earlier, so going from 12 p.m. to 11 a.m. On those weekends. And the reason the request is coming from the applicant is really to allow for more use of the space, kind of given now that we're at least looks like coming out of the pandemic, there's more demand for the use of their outdoor space for weddings and other events. And they've been kind of a sponsor in a number of different bicycle events and other races where they'd like to have the opportunity to be open an hour earlier to serve those customers. So this gives an opportunity for the city, both through the licensing review committee and the plan commission, to take a look at their license and their permits and just make sure that we're comfortable with their hours of operation being changed. So this has been reviewed by the LRC and approved or recommended for approval by the LRC. City Council has had 2 reads on this hour change, and they did approve the change conditional upon the Plan Commission's review and approval this evening. And again, we kind of lay out in the staff report on page 1 exactly the changes that are being requested. But again, it boils down to extending the hours of operation 1 hour earlier on the weekends. All the other conditions from the previous approvals would still hold forth.
Great, thank you. Since this is a consideration of action, I would just go around the room and see if we have any questions for Brian on this particular request. Chris? Oh, sorry, you've abstained. Silly me. Patrick, do you have any questions for Brian on this request?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Christy, do you have any questions?
I don't. I just had a curiosity, and it was, why do we not allow them to have any live music during weddings, but we allow them to have live music during events? I was just curious about, there must be some history I'm not aware of.
I can't speak to that history. That was a condition that was in back in, I think, 2010 and 2013. So I'm not sure what the Plan Commission at that time was considering.
I was thinking that maybe there was some kind of people carrying out or something like that, maybe with the wedding crowd, but I just wasn't sure if anyone knew why that was. Okay, nope, that's all I was curious about.
Corinne, do you have any questions for Brian on this?
I guess the only thing I was thinking of or wondering is, were there concerns expressed by the neighbors about this?
So since we sent out the notices, I only had one contact from a nearby neighbor, and it was actually in support of this application to increase the hour by 1 hour, earlier in the day. I think if the request would have been to extend it an hour later in the evening, that would have been a different reaction. But what I had heard from that resident was they were comfortable and supportive of having it be extended the other direction.
Okay.
And just also, Corinne, as it relates to that question, if I remember correctly, both the city council and the other committee where it was reviewed, there is no history of the Tiki Bar having complaints against it. They have a very, stellar record, in that regard.
Okay.
So. Rob, any questions for Brian on this one?
Nope, I'm all for it. Given that there's not additional noise complaints, I have nothing to add.
Great. Susan, do you have anything?
No, I just want to make sure we had the times correct in the recommendations, because down at the bottom where it says alcoholic beverages and food services will end 1 hour, half hour before closing, and then it proceeds to list the times. It says 9:30 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and then the 3 summer holidays identified above that fall on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And it sounds like it's 9:30 for those days too. And if it's closing at 11, that should be 10:30. And then it says 10:30 on Friday and Saturday. I just want to make sure we have the Memorial Day or the Independence Day times are a little confusing, but.
You saying that, Brian?
We could clarify it by just.
Yeah, we can clarify that.
Times and just making it say a half hour before closing, period.
Sure.
I guess I'd prefer to do that, but yeah.
Brian, do you have anything on this one?
Yeah, no additional questions. It makes sense.
Okay, thank you. That being the case, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Mr. Homburg has his hand up.
Sorry, thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I said I was going to abstain, but since there's been a bunch of questions, the history on this site is there was one tenant in the apartment next door that was very high energy. She made a lot of inquiries. I believe the landlord at the time, he might still was Fred Mose, had the building, and she made a lot of calls to him and a lot of calls to the city, and didn't like being woke up in the morning. She liked to sleep late, and that was the genesis of a lot of this. And it was a compromise, honestly, between her and the landlord and the city on something that would be acceptable at that time. So when you're wondering about some of these hours and why it says certain things, there was one very particular energetic neighbor.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
With that, do I have a motion on this 6B, consideration of action?
I would move approval with recommendations as written by staff.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Abstain.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to 6C, pre-hearing conference at the request of Florin Decor Outlets of America LLC, represented by Centerpoint Integrated Solutions LLC, in consideration of a zoning permit for new use at 2101 West Broadway, case number 2-012-2021. This is this is a pre-hearing conference this evening, and I assume that there's someone here from Florin Decor that would like to present. Who do we have with us today? Brian?
We've got
Yeah.
Dan Parker and,
Oh, go
and
ahead.
Dan.
Yep. Yeah, hey everyone, my name's Parker. I'm a development manager for Centerpoint, who's representing Florin Decor, and Dan Kelly is on here as well.
Welcome
All right.
to both of you.
Thanks for having us. We're excited about this project. Trying to share my screen here.
I will, Dan, I will make you, sorry, Parker, I will make you host so that you're able to share your screen. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
You should be good now, Parker.
Is everyone able to see? Nope, I don't think so. Let's try this again.
There we go.
How about now? So you should be able to see my screen here. The building we're talking about is the former Shopko space, which I know there is a little bit of history with this commission. I think a project recently came through for this exact space. But Florin Decor, we're a retail user, sell tile, wood, stone, vanities, and products for install. So they're proposing to take just over 81,000 of this building here, and then this will be demised. This entire building outline here was the former Shopko space, so it will be demised, and there will be a remnant retail space. And let's see, for site improvements, we are redoing the ADA parking out front here. We are doing so we call it a customer pickup area. It's a loading area for large product quantities. So I can zoom in here, but how this functions is there's actually a forklift, and customers can drive their truck into the pickup area here, get product loaded. And then moving out to the parking lot here. So we are adding landscape islands throughout the parking lot, terminal islands, as well as interior islands. Mostly everything will stay the same on the exterior, with the exception of the customer pickup area I just mentioned there. The loading dock will stay as is. And then just quickly go through here. Here's the landscape plan. And then moving on to, let's see, here's the floor plan. Not much to see here. I will note there is a large existing mezzanine in this building that we will be removing. So there's a large demo effort involved with re-tenanting this space. I think the mezzanine is about 21,000 square feet at the front of the store here. And here are the proposed project elevations. So here's that customer pickup area I referenced earlier on the front. So this is open interior to the building, and then there's a roll-up door in there that the forklift services vehicles. Here's the new storefront look. And this is Florin Decor's corporate branding colors. And the back of the building, we just went with the neutral gray along the freeway. And here is the side profile of the loading area. I will note there is a large landscape buffer on this side of the property. So if you're looking out from the street, this whole side of the building is not visible from the right of way. And we can quickly go through just the sign package here. The elevations we just saw. There's the signage proposed over the customer pickup and the rear signage. But with that, I'm happy to open it up to any questions you may have and be happy to answer anything.
Great, thank you. Brian, before I open it up to the committee, would you like to share the staff report?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. And so staff report kind of runs through, similar to other pre-hearings you've had in the past, kind of run through the main decision points. Again, the code sections that are relevant in this review pertain to our operational use standards, our lighting standards, signage code, erosion control, stormwater, comprehensive plan guidance for this property is for commercial, so that is a fit there. In terms of specific things on the site that I would bring your attention to, one, the building improvements themselves, the parking for the use that's proposed, and then the site landscaping, which Parker gave you a little preview of what that landscape plan is going to look like. Obviously, as we get further into the review, you'll have a more detailed review for that. One item I do want to bring to your attention from an architectural design standpoint, obviously this is a big box and there's a big box use that's going back in there. So I don't have much of an issue with the kind of color choices or anything from the corporate standpoint, but I would ask the applicant and the Plan Commission to think a little bit more about the main entrance to the building, and then to think about if that could be changed to add some more architectural elements for interest into the space. I'm not sure exactly what that material on the columns is, but it might make sense to consider at least a portion of those columns to be some sort of brick or other material to, one, add some visual interest, but also if there would ever be the instance where a vehicle would hit one of those columns, if those columns are made out of an EFIS type material, that damage is going to show a lot more than if that the bottom half of the columns were some other more sturdy material. So I just offer that as some commentary for the applicant and the Plan Commission to think about. Beyond that, City Planner Plowman gave a pretty thorough review of the code sections and where the project relates to the code as we sit today. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about Doug's staff report.
Thank you, Brian. With that, I will open it up to the committee. Chris, would you like to start this evening?
Sure. Are we still in public hearing?
We are in a pre-hearing.
Pre-hearing. Okay, great. All right, thanks. First, I'd like to thank the applicant for coming forward with a reasonable set of plans where we don't have to talk about every item in our code. I appreciate the fact that you're hitting our standard pretty closely with your parking lot, putting the islands in where our newer standards, where we asked for them, and a few things like that. I think overall we're talking about is it an appropriate use? I believe it is. It's a little more industrial than perhaps some of the other users there, but it is an appropriate commercial use, I believe, and I believe that with the numbers they're talking about, they'll bring some good traffic into this area, which would be helpful for the area. So I think that's appropriate. I agree with staff's comment on masonry for those two things. They look like masonry, but if they aren't planned that way, they should be, whether it's split block or whatever it is, there should be something substantial at that entry. One thing we've always worked on Broadway and different levels of success is not to have garage doors facing Broadway. And I understand in this application that would be difficult, but I think there's some things we could do to soften that so it's just not wide open. And if you go to the landscape plan, I think, you know, there's a number of areas I'd like to talk about on the landscape plan, but certainly one of them would be there's a large triangular island that's very close to that overhead door. It has no trees in it. Obviously it did when this site was done. I think those trees need to be replaced. And then the smaller island opposite through the, not the main drive, but the drive going to the parking lot, something in there. And then when you look at the rest of the site, there's areas where obviously trees have died and they haven't been replaced. I think those should be spritzed up. And there's actually some areas where there's still stumps sticking out of the ground. So I think I'd like to see you look at that, and especially along that main entrance. That was always intended to be a tree-lined boulevard, and about half the trees are left, the other half are missing. So I think that's something we'd look at. But these are, you know, it's smaller items, but it's a number of trees. One other area I think we could work on is right now the backside of the old Shopko store was painted in 2 tones. We'd asked them to do that so it wasn't just one big monolith on the back by the Beltline. When this center was built, there wasn't much behind it. There was a wetland and some wildlife areas, and unfortunately after the center was built, then the Beltline went in, so there wasn't a lot of design that was put into the back of these buildings. So my first question for the applicant would be why we wouldn't continue that same paint scheme with the 3 colors right around the back, because what we do is make it look a little less like a back of a building. It's great exposure for you. So I would think you'd like to see that corporate color and that exposure, even to the point where I don't know where that back sign is. We typically would certainly allow a second building sign for use like this, because it's pretty clear you front on a second road, which is the Beltline. So I don't know where you're at for square footage, but even if that got a little bigger, a little more towards your corporate signage, and we put that paint scheme on the back, I think that would do a lot to make this look a little less like the back end of a building. And it, for you, it's great exposure. I would think you'd want to do everything you can to make it look inviting. Screening, I think, for the loading dock is great. I looked at your cuts. If you could confirm it, but these are all full cutoff LED fixtures, correct, for your lighting?
They are, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then the other thing I appreciate is on your islands that you're putting in, plus the existing ones, you show some green. This was the poster child for when that standard in our community was changed, because this whole center had been, all the islands, everything living had been taken out except for the trees, and they just put a real bland stone in it. It looked like it was just pavement from one end of the center to the other. So that's when we changed our standard to ask for either low bushes in that island or grass or something green. And I see you're proposing, the way I see the plans, you're proposing to leave grass and add grass to the new ones, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I think that's all I have. The biggest one would be just to do a little more with the landscaping and hits a lot of these areas where pretty clear where there were trees and they're gone in that boulevard. And then the front, when I started with that, with some trees there, I know we're not going to screen that garage door, but it's a visual distraction. So it takes your eye away, so you don't drive by on Broadway and just see this massive, because it's a wide garage door. It's a wide overhead door. It just kind of softens that a little bit. Plus, we have no opportunity right at the building. That sidewalk's so narrow, so there's really no way to put any vertical elements of landscaping in there. So these islands right across from your front entrance are the critical ones to try to get some vertical elements of landscaping, just to soften that huge facade.
Great.
Thank you.
Great, Chris, thank you very much. Patrick, do you have anything?
Thank you. And I'd like to say thanks for coming before the commission again. I'm new to the commission, so and it's I just had a couple of questions about the lighting, and the lighting is, I was wondering if you could share with us what the color temperature of the exterior lighting will be, because I guess in just my opinion, I would like to see something that's a little more welcoming and softer and more comfortable, like maybe something that's 2,800 to 3,000 instead of something that's like super bright white, that might be more visually appealing. So I guess that's a question. And if you know what the color temperature would be of the exterior mast lights.
No, we don't have a color temperature, I guess, plan laid out. We did submit a photometrics plan, but I don't believe that contemplates the color. I'll need to look into that further.
But yeah, that would be my comments, along with the I just echo some of Chris's comments about landscaping and maybe taking a look at that entrance and having that entrance appear to be a little bit more architecturally interesting. But again, that's just my comments. But I think the color temperature of the exterior lights would go a long way in helping soften the overall appearance. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Rob?
All right, thank you for giving us the rundown there. In general, I think it's a great, appropriate use of space. I like the fact that you'll be bringing so many employees to Monona, as well as customers on a daily basis. I think those are great assets to this proposed use. Kind of related to the front entrance and those landscape islands, or kind of that front boulevard area. That's a flush or a roll mount curb all along the entrance there, if I'm not correct. Is that right?
There is a flush curb, yes. And
yeah. Is there consideration of it having any safety bollards in certain areas there, a la big round balls and Target? I'm not suggesting you use red spheres, but I don't know if there's some safety concerns having that mountable curb or a flush. I think it's flush now.
Yeah, I'm pulling up
painting or any sort of safety kind of measures.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, bollards we definitely consider for safety. Obviously adequate spacing for the carts, etc. A lot of the product, as you can imagine, comes out on pallets, so rather large carts. But yeah, we'll definitely take another look at the flush curb. I believe it is flush curb today, all the way across, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe Mr. Homburg is has a visual aid. He's showing.
It's a tweener. I think it used to be a 6-inch curb face on a sidewalk. Looks like the blacktops has some overlays, so it looks like it's maybe a 2 or 3-inch face on there now. So it'd be real easy to roll over the top of. But it's also a tripper the way it is. It's just a few inches.
Understood. Yeah. No, I remember the same. I think they've overlaid this parking lot several times since then. So.
Yeah, a point of consideration, maybe take another look at that just to make sure that we're accounting for safety measures. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to add. I think adding some additional landscape in some of those southern islands along the main drive aisle are good ideas. I'm glad to see the addition of a lot of those islands and improvements. I think going back to lighting, your question, Patrick, I believe those are 4,000, just if I'm reading it correctly. But that said, those fixtures are generally just spec'd out to whatever temperature you want. There's usually a lot of flexibility within there. 28's pretty warm, I know. But I know that if that's the fixture they want, they could probably accommodate whatever temperature. I was going to ask Brian, do you know, is there a standard for temperature
in the code? No, I don't believe we have one.
Okay. I think that's all I have. I think it's coming along. Looks good.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Corinne?
I think it looks great too. It's exciting. I echo some of Rob's comments there. And I guess the one question I had, and maybe I'm missing it, but on the lighting plan, do you have one of the S5s in the back corner, back by the, I don't know what you call it, the part behind the building, the drive behind the building? Is that something that's needed there, or is the wall luminaries? I mean, that's pretty bright. It looks like it shines pretty well. So I guess I was just wondering if anyone else felt that there was need for additional lighting in the back corner.
There is not a pole proposed. You're correct. It's just the wall packs on the back.
I mean, maybe it is bright enough. I'm still learning how to read these photometric plans. So Brian, did anyone have any comments on that when there was review on it?
No, the staff comments mainly related to the actual resurfacing of the driveway in the back, because we know it is pretty pockmarked back there. So it's more of a safety concern about that. I didn't receive any comments from staff about the lighting.
Okay. Then I guess I noticed a couple of the stumps that Chris had mentioned. So just taking a look at where there are trees that are dead and replacing those would be great. It's going to be wonderful to have that parking lot resurfaced and redone, because that is just a hazard to drive on at the moment. Yeah. But yeah, I really didn't have anything else to add to what the other commissioners have said. I think this is looking great and am excited.
Thank you. Alder Goforth.
Oh, thanks, Nancy. Yeah, I'm really excited to see this use as well. I was wondering if I did have concerns about the garage door facing the entrance, or facing north, facing Broadway. And I noticed a lot of your other stores, I just looked up images online, and it seemed like the customer pickup entrance that was facing the parking area was more of like a double entry door. I didn't see a garage door facing the entrance. Did you consider kind of putting that garage door around facing east, like around the corner? And why or why not did you decide to go with this plan?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually did consider putting it in the back corner by the loading dock, but just with how this particular store laid out and the existing mezzanine that we were taking out, because we actually did have it planned in that back corner originally, and then our project team went out and walked the building, and this is the location that we ultimately settled on. So our preference honestly would to have it over by the loading dock, but just with how this existing store laid out, that was the location it needed to be.
Yeah, I can see that it is a really large expanse, and so I can see that it makes sense to put that there. Do you anticipate any challenges with traffic flow with trucks pulling in and out of that?
No, there really is only two stalls there. So I really don't. I mean, I think there will, going in front of the store there is slower traffic already, if not, a major thoroughfare. So we don't anticipate any issues with that.
Okay, great. And then I was wondering, so I saw there are the 2 cart corrals in the parking lot right now, one being kind of to the western side. It looks like it would almost go with the smaller unit, and one on your side. Are you planning on keeping those, or will those come out?
Those would come out, and we would propose new locations, which I guess aren't shown here. But yes, those existing ones would come out.
Okay. Yeah, they look pretty rough as well. Yeah, I love the new trees and the islands. I think that'll be some great for shade for folks parking. I think that's really all I had. I mean, I think overall it looks really good. I also did consider the bollards in the front, especially near that garage door. That might be kind of break up that large expanse if you put some red bollards in there. That I think that might add some visual interest as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Susan Cox. You're on mute, Susan.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
know. I had to find my mouse and get off mute. Yeah, I think this looks like a great project too, and I don't have a lot to add other than there was just mention made of repaving, and my understanding was the plans don't call for totally repaving. So I guess I wondered about that again. I went around and drove around it again today, and the main parking lot you might get away with for a while with just filling potholes, which is kind of what it said here, and installing the new islands. But that back part, I think, really does need to be repaved. The drive that goes to the back of the building to the existing loading dock is really in terrible shape. And that was my understanding. That was the concern before too. If a fire truck had to get back there, it's, I mean, it's really not only big potholes, the whole paving structure, asphalt surface is in pretty bad shape in that area. So I wonder if that's something you're considering doing, or we could encourage you to.
Yeah, I think at the rear drive aisle, I know that was a concern that we've been made note about early on. So I think there was consideration for repaving that whole back drive.
That'd be great. And then the other part would be nice, but again, maybe that could be done down the road if that's not part of the plan now. Because that one, if it's significantly spruced up, would look a lot better. I think all these other suggestions are good. I looked at online too at pictures of different stores to look at that front entryway, and yeah, I think the suggestion to use masonry there makes sense. But I think it will be interesting, and I also like the idea of sprucing up the back a little bit to look more like the front. I think that was a good idea. I hadn't thought about that, but it makes sense to me to do that.
Great, Susan, thank you, appreciate it. Brian.
Yeah, the first part regarding land use and zoning, I think it is a good fit. Chris kind of had a nod to that there's an industrial feel, but it does kind of mimic some other flooring type businesses in not our community, but in larger Madison that is clearly within a mall of other retail and other types of lighter industrial. So I think it's a good fit for the location and design. The parking, that's been covered quite a bit. I'm not sure, Brian, is there any concern with the original outlot CSM that I don't know if it actually got filed or not with the parking agreement?
Yeah, the parking agreement, the parking easements are filed. The easement from the last time around was not. So we'd have to just verify the paperwork on that, but that would be a separate item that the owner of the property would have to address at a future date.
Okay. Cover with lighting, those suggestions have already been made. Agree with the concerns that were marked regarding landscaping, just to double check. It looks like there are a good amount of trees and shrubs going in, but just wanted to make sure that we're not missing some of those locations. So a double check on that, and a grid with our point scale for our next review. Parking lot, it's been noted. I had the same take that Susan had regarding patchwork in the front and an overhaul in the back, but it would be great if it was an overhaul everywhere, but understand that might not be for this initial round. Other than that, no additional concerns.
Great. Thank you, Brian, appreciate it. Parker, I would say overall it's a warm thumb up, recognizing the feedback that you got tonight on all fronts, from asphalt to landscaping, lighting, etc. Feedback obviously is positive. So I hope this was helpful to you this evening. It is pre-hearing, and we look forward to seeing you back at a different date. Yeah, Chris.
Hey,
Always forget something, right? I just want to echo the comments that were made about the parking lot, Parker. It was one of my bullet points, but I missed it when I said I was done. Right now, you're proposing just to overlay a small portion in the back and then not touch the rest and patch the potholes. I think it'd probably be in your best interest to do that back right now. You'll be patching that forever. And again, the front, I understand this is a property that's been let go for a long time. You can't do everything at once, but perhaps when you come back, you could let us know what your intentions are. Maybe it's a year or two from now, or if you have any intentions on what you'd like to see with that parking lot. To answer Patrick's question, last time we modified our code for electrical, there weren't LED lights where we could change the colors. It was basically, was it going to be high pressure sodium or halide? So that was it. We were going to have kind of brownish light or white light. So we've never had the luxury until recently of looking at light temperatures. So I think it's a good thing to talk about, but that's why we have nothing in our code. But certainly have the ability to talk about it. And lastly, every time I've driven by this site, we've driven by it a lot recently, I can't say that I've seen a lot of traffic during the middle of the day going by this driveway. Now, I suspect at night where some of these other tenants are busier, there might be more, but I expect this particular use to probably be busiest during the middle of the day. During the workday. I think that's the people that will be coming here. So I think as far as traffic in front of that front door, although it's a legitimate concern, it seems like with the user mix that's there right now, this probably would work really well. And I don't see a lot of trucks backing in at nighttime when maybe the after work shoppers are there. It's just an observation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Parker, do you have any other questions for us this evening?
I guess I would just like to make sure I fully understand kind of the next steps here. So we got the feedback from the Planning Commission. I think this was really helpful. Now we'll go back and provide some updates, and then we resubmit and be considered at a public hearing.
That's correct. Yep, for the zoning permit.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So I want to thank you for taking the time. We're excited about the possibility of you being here and spending the time this evening, and appreciate the detail that you provided us. We don't always get this level of detail at a pre-hearing either. So we appreciate all of that, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Great. Well, thanks for everyone's feedback. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
With that, we will move to staff reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one thing to update you on in economic development. I did talk with the development team for the Monona Gardens project late last week. They're still working to incorporate the feedback that they had received from you and from their neighborhood meeting that they held about 2 or so weeks ago. They're trying to figure out a timeline in terms of when they can have their materials ready to resubmit. Probably not likely for your next meeting on the 24th. Probably more likely for one of your meetings in June that they'd be back before you, and we'll keep you in the loop in terms of when their formal submittal has been received from that standpoint. I think that's all I've got on economic development stuff. If you want me to move on to potential upcoming Plan Commission items on the docket for your next meeting on May 24th, you will have One City Schools is looking to return. They're finalizing their plan submittals as we speak in preparation for that meeting on the 24th. So if we get everything we need for that, that will be on the docket. And then also likely on the docket will be the landscape plan for the Restaurant Depot property that you previously looked at as well. So I think that's what's on the docket for your next meeting in May. And Elise, do you have anything else?
Yeah, we'll also be seeing the Four Lakes Yacht Club signage permit to go along with all of the renovations that they're making to their building.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any Plan Commission requests for information from city staff? Chris?
Brian, are you aware, One City School, have they had any contact with Monona Garden developer? Because I know they really, one thing we asked them was come back, what's your plan B when this doesn't work and we need to have parking? And certainly one obvious area is the other side of Engle Street there. where they could do some angle parking. Have they gotten their heads together at all on that?
The Monona Garden folks,
Yeah.
they know that they needed to make that contact. I don't know if that contact happened as of when we talked last week.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like Corinne had her hand up, and then Mr. Renner had his hand up as well.
Yeah. Corinne?
Yeah, I wasn't able, I wanted to attend that meeting on the project and I wasn't able to. And I looked on the website to try to find a recording. And I guess I'm just wondering if the recording was ever posted.
You're speaking
So
of the
that was,
meeting that Nesbitt did?
yeah, that was not a meeting that the
Or-
city
or-
held. That was a meeting that that MESBA
Right.
hosted with the project developer. So I don't know, Mr. Renner, if you.
Right.
Yeah, Corinne, I have the link from Nesbitt and from Devin. I'd be happy to send it to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sorry.
No problem.
So I do have that recording available. I can send it to anybody. I think I've sent it to Nancy and Alder Goldforth. So if anybody else needs that, or we will have that on our YouTube channel shortly. I apologize, I didn't have that up right away. There was like 45 minutes at the beginning where we were just sitting around making jokes before any work happened. So I had to edit all that out, and I didn't know how to do that. The other thing I was going to add, Chris, regarding your question about contact between one school and the Provence developers, I'm actually in the middle of facilitating that conversation right now. So hopefully by the time the next meeting occurs and they come back, or one city schools comes back, that conversation will have already happened.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, don't touch
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Devin.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Anybody else? Any other questions from the commissioners?
I do
Yeah.
have one more.
Yes, Corinne?
I didn't hear how Douglas is and his family.
There you
They're-
go.
they're-
That was the last thing I was going to bring up, but go ahead, Brian.
They're very well. His wife had a baby. What was it? No, 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to mess up the name again. So Nancy, if you could, it's very.
Oh, no, I was not going to bail you out. I was going to hope.
At least,
you
at
were
least,
gonna bail me
because I don't want to
out.
mess it up. It's a big deal.
I don't know. He hasn't told me.
It's Llewellyn. Llewellyn. Yeah,
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn. I've gotten
Yeah.
it wrong like 6 different times, so I didn't want to mess it up again. But Llewellyn,
Right.
baby girl, family is healthy and happy. I don't know. I was telling Chris before we started, I don't know what his sleep is like these days. So when he comes back to the office on Monday, he might be a little bit of a zombie, but we'll do our best to help him get back in the swing of things on Monday when he returns.
Okay.
I can update you. His sleep is horrible. I can
Yeah.
go out on a limb. There's an update.
Yep.
This is non-existent, right?
Mhm.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, great. Anything else for the staff this evening? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move adjournment.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Hey.
All right.
Great, thank you all very, very much. Have a good evening and stay safe, and we will see you all again soon. Appreciate it as always.